This is a wetland. Wetland habitat is some of the most productive ecosystems in the world. The dynamic mix of land and water is able to support a wide variety of plant and animal species.
In the past, wetlands have been known for their bad smells and lots of bugs. However, wetlands are establishing their true identification. Wetlands are actually very healthy and very productive.
Roles and services played out by wetlands.
Do they provide water quality?
Yes, they filter out contaminants.
How about habitats?
Wetlands provide habitats for many different species.
Do they offer shoreline protection?
Of course they do.
What about the weather?
What about the weather?
Well, I thought that wetlands provided atmospheric vital roles.
Oh, that's true.
And what about recreational opportunities?
They provide many different recreational opportunities, including hiking, canoeing, and fishing.
Despite the growing appreciation and respect for wetlands, they continue to disappear at an alarming rate.
Anthropogenic influences include indirect and direct stressors. They include agricultural, urbanization and road construction, shoreline development, and deforestation.
In Southern Ontario, approximately 2/3 of wetlands have been destroyed or severely degraded.
The influence of agriculture within the Great Lakes Basin is expected due to the amount of agricultural land. Agricultural activities include the application of pesticides and herbicides, drainage for land use, and nutrient loading. The application of herbicides and pesticides will have an impact on wetland biodiversity. The increase of these toxins will have an ultimate effect on the amphibian larvae within the wetland, further affecting the food web.
Agricultural drainage accounts for 80% of the wetland loss. There is now a wetland policy in Ontario that categorizes the wetlands based on hydrological, biological, social, and spatial features. The classification of wetlands helps to determine their significance in an area and allows authorities to determine which wetlands need to be protected. Despite the remediation and mitigation policies that have been put into place, lack of participation and enforcement has resulted in continued wetland loss. Nutrient loading is one of the most significant influences that humans have through agricultural activities on wetlands. Row crop agriculture is some of the most intensely fertilized agricultural land, and relationships between the agricultural intensity and wetland degradation due to cultural eutrophication can be seen in a number of studies. While some variables including dissolved oxygen, pH, dissolved organic carbon, and silica appear to remain independent of agricultural intensity, there is a relationship between agricultural intensity and nutrient loading of nitrogen and phosphorus, particulate concentrations, water clarity, and conductivity. Wetlands also exhibit strong relationships with the trophic states of the lakes that they are adjacent to.
The results of the studies we found could be an indication that measures to minimize crop row agricultural impacts are either insufficiently implemented or are not working as effectively as desired. While the effects of development and point source contamination are more complex and require much more effort to understand, there is evidence to show that they have an effect on wetland ecosystems.
Urbanization and road construction has led to the degradation of wetlands. This wetland in particular has been separated by a road. Road construction has led to the loss of biodiversity due to the restricted movement between populations, increased mortality, and habitat fragmentation. There's an increased potential for invasive species and human contact with the natural environment. All of these factors influence the rates of local extinction and recolonization. Currently, this wetland has been proposed to be destroyed for the project of subdivisions. This wetland on this side will have sandbanks in implemented along the road so that it stops any movement of species through the road culverts, stopping any water and population influences.
Road salt is becoming an increasingly significant anthropogenic influence on freshwater systems in Canada. As road salt is washed off the roads and into the freshwater systems, it increases salinity and decreases water quality.
Deforestation has an effect on wetland health and productivity. Species richness and abundance increase when forest cover is located adjacent from wetlands. Wetlands in southeastern Ontario are found to have a positive correlation between species and forest cover. Species that do not live 100% in wetlands also rely on forests for cover. Forest decline also represents fragmentation of the landscape, which makes it harder for species to move from different wetland habitats. Forest measure is also an indirect measurement of agriculture, which has negative effects on wetlands.
Water level stabilization and shoreline manipulation, including mowing and raking of the aquatic plants near the shoreline during low water levels, have a significant impact on smaller spatial scales. Water level stabilization encourages the introduction of invasive and non-native species, decreasing biodiversity over time. By beach grooming and channel dredging creates pathways for pelagic waters to infiltrate marsh areas. This disrupts the chemical and physical conditions that would otherwise exist.
Since pressure from human growth is expected to increase, it is important that conservation efforts are put aside to ensure that adequate research and money are allocated so that further deterioration is prevented and their integrity is maintained. Studies have indicated that current mitigation efforts are not enough to protect wetlands from anthropogenic influences within the Great Lakes Basin. Humans are now entering the fourth stage of environmental acceptance, understanding that anthropogenic influences are affecting wetlands and that humans can fix the problem.